Hello everyone and welcome to Sentence Diagramming 101. This video is about chapter 4, which is phrases, and we are in part D, appositive phrases. So appositive is just a really fancy word for a word that renames a noun or a pronoun. It usually gives more information about whatever that thing was for your readers. So an appositive can be one single word or it can be a phrase. Like, for example, my neighbor John feeds the neighborhood cats. Well, my neighbor is the subject here, right? But John is renaming neighbor. It's telling me more about my neighbor. So John is the appositive. And while we're here, the appositive is always the second thing. The first thing is going to be the function, right? The neighbor is the subject of the sentence. But John, because it is second, is called the appositive. It is renaming my neighbor. Now, if this sentence were flipped and I said, John, my neighbor, feeds the neighborhood cats, then neighbor would be the appositive. Whereas in the first one, John is the appositive. So it's always the second thing. But it's just a reference when you refer back to something and rename it. It's called an appositive. So you can have my neighbor John. You can have Graham, my ancient cat, right? Renaming my cat. Or I could have my ancient cat, Graham, making Graham the appositive. Appositives are repeating information, so they don't generally perform any grammatical function. They're not doing any of the lifting of the sentence, if you will. You know, they're not a subject, they're not a verb, they're not an object or anything. They're renaming those things. So, you know, they're treated like they're important because you want to distinguish them. They go on the line when you're diagramming, but they're kind of quietly on the line, so they go inside parentheses. This is how we really turn diagramming into math. But if we keep going, you can have multiple appositives in the same sentence, like Ian McKellen, star of Lord of the Rings. So star is the appositive, renaming Ian McKellen here. He also played the villain Magneto. So villain is the direct object, but villain is being renamed Magneto. So Magneto is the appositive. And you can have an appositive phrase, or you could just have an appositive. Actually, in this case, of Lord of the Rings is a prepositional phrase. So really, this is just star. So we have just a one word appositive. Whereas up here, my ancient cat, that would be an appositive phrase because it's more than one word and it's not a prepositional phrase. Let's see. Now we get into diagramming. So yeah, like I said, you literally just put the appositive in parentheses to the right of whatever word it is renaming. So any words that go with the appositive, like in this one, we've got my neighbor. The my goes off the neighbor. It's not my John, right? It's my neighbor. So sometimes you have to work on the spacing when you have an appositive to make sure that your lines are going in the right spot. Moving on, we've got like my cat. So cat is so small, but my and ancient, you want to get it as close as possible to the cat here and not over under the Graham, because it's not my ancient Graham, it's my ancient cat, who happens to be called Graham. If you listen to a lot of these videos, I'm sure you've heard him before in the background, letting us know he's still alive. But see over here, my ancient cat goes with the subject, not with Graham. So you have to watch your spacing on an appositive. Now, you can have appositives appearing anywhere. They'll be here in subject complements. And again, friend is the appositive, but we've got all this other stuff going on. We have it's his friend, it's his best friend, it's his friend on the journey to Mordor. So we've got a lot of extra information. So you shove it all under the appositive because that's what it's modifying. Now we're ready to, if you want, you could see how this is diagrammed, right? Ian McKellen, star of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is a proper name. If you want, you can pull this thing apart and be like Lord of Rings, but when you have a proper name, because Lord of the Rings is the name of a movie and a book, then you don't have to pull it apart. You can leave it all together. So it's up to you. Just like Ian McKellen, you could be like McKellen, which one? Ian. You could say that Ian is, an adjective describing which McKellen. You can pull proper names apart, but you don't have to. So it's up to you. But we've got, X-Men is the series, and then villain is Magneto. So we've got a lot of appositives happening in this sentence. Now we kind of, what did we do? Oh, this is where we pulled it apart. So Lord of Rings, so you can also do it that way. Now it's time to practice. So this is exercise 4B, where you're going to diagram some appositives. Same deal, take your time, do them. Look at the answer key on the website to see the stills of the answers, and then watch the video overview explaining why everything is where it is. And you'll get both sides. But there you go. And that is it for appositives.